so perfect. In 1991, this is such a good story, Romeo and I were on a TV show called Star Search. We won $100,000. The money is gone. Don't ask. Okay. Let's play Vegas. Okay. 22 is not a color. All right. I can't believe the Christians laughed at that joke. Okay. 25 years ago, they did not have these great directional microphones that pick up everything. This is a long time ago. 25 years ago, if you ever watch reruns of the old Tonight Show, Carson and McMahon, God rest their souls, okay? You'll see the shadow of a boom microphone, an ambient microphone on a boom. Explain the whole thing. I'm going to. You'll see the shadow of this microphone. It'll go from the boom, okay? And you'll see the shadow of it go from the host face, Carson, and it'll be on the co-host face, McMahon. And you'll see the shadow of this microphone go back and forth during the program right across their faces. This is so good. We fly out to Los Angeles. This is so awesome. To rehearse for Star Search. It's a nightmare. It's a disaster. They can hear me perfectly whenever I talk. But Romeo, no matter how hard I try, no sound. Telling the lie. The boom microphone operator was moving the microphone from me. We gave him 20 minutes to figure it out. He's a voter. Okay. And a graduate of San Diego State University. Oh, stop. Oh, boo. That's such a cheap shot. We did a show at San Diego State University / Bar and Grill. Okay, you made your point. School song. Duh. Okay. As if you've ever learned anything. I went to college. Oh, yeah. What was your major? History. Oh, history. Mm-hmm. Well, tell us all about the Ottoman Empire, how that affected Mesopotamia, and the ramifications that's had in the Persian Gulf as we know it today. Can I call a lifeline? No. You don't know squat about history. So, history repeats itself. I watch the reruns. Get out of here. Do you know any math? Lay it on me. Here's an easy one. Don't give me the answer. What comes between 7 and 9? Family Guy. No. Math, x over y equals 10. Solve for x and y. Here's a better one. CNN over HBO equals NTD. Get out of here, Romeo. Can't read, can't write, can't do math? Mm-hmm. What job could you possibly get? Congress. Okay, fine.
Hello and welcome to Landon Live. My name is Landon Harvey, and tonight we have the multi-talented Taylor Mason. Taylor, how are you doing today?
Landon, I'm great. Thanks for having me on your interview, Landon Live programs.
Thank you for being a part of it.
This is the wildest show. I've watched a few of them, and they're really great.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, let's get into it. How did you get into ventriloquism? What's your story?
I started when I was very, very young. My parents, it has a lot to do with my mom and dad, who grew up during the Depression, and the #1 radio program during the Depression, there were no TVs then, was the Chase and Sanborn Hour starring Edgar Bergen and Charlie McCarthy. And my mom and dad loved that show. Now they weren't living together at the time. My dad had lived on a farm, and they had a big console, huge console radio player. My mom's family would go down the street to an aunt's house, and she had a radio, big console, and everybody would gather around the radio and listen. And their favorite show growing up was the Edgar Bergen Charlie McCarthy show, who was a ventriloquist on the radio, which has many, many ramifications for today, but I'm not going to get into that. How that works, I don't know. Except that, of course, Edgar Bergen was a fantastic ventriloquist, but a great dialogue and comedy writer, and Charlie McCarthy was a defined personality. And actually, a lot of comedians of that time kind of used their style, imitated their style. A famous comic named W.C. Fields came on this show a lot. So it was very much like a sitcom on the radio, because there was no television. My parents grew up with that, and when my parents met, that was one of the things that they that they shared. They loved radio. They met in radio. My dad was a farm news broadcaster. My mom was working as a secretary and a Kelly girl, which means she was singing the live commercials at WSOY in Decatur, Illinois. I mean, it's a crazy story. So when I was a little boy, my father one day brings home a plastic-headed, molded-headed Danny O'Day puppet. Danny O'Day being a Jimmy Nelson character that he used in his act. He was another very famous ventriloquist in the 1950s and 60s. And this was the 60s when I was very little. And I'd been playing with socks like Sherry Lewis, doing, shows for my grandmother, basically, with a sock on my hand. And my father decided we need to upgrade and become, a real ventriloquist like my hero, Edgar Bergen. So he buys me this slot-jaw puppet, and you couldn't work the thing. It was made, it had a hole in the back of the neck with a little string, and it was a sock for the body. And my dad, to his credit, said, "Oh, son, let's build a puppet for the body for this puppet." And so we took it apart and cut off the bottom of the head, and he molded, think of a mortar and pestle. He molded a base for the puppet head, and then built a wooden body with the pestle, and it stuck the head down in so it could rock, like a mortar and pestle. We put a post into the neck and a thimble at the end of the string, so I could grab the post with my hand, put my little thumb in the thimble, and pull up and down, and the slot jaw plastic mouth would open. And hallelujah, I had a real ventriloquist dummy, which I named Ted. The reason we named it Ted was my father thought it was very funny because he was very Republican, and Ted Kennedy was a big politician at the time, and my father thought it would be hilarious to name a ventriloquist puppy Ted. So my puppet became Ted the Puppet, and I wrote a script, went to do my show maybe the third or fourth day of class in 7th grade. So I've been practicing with socks. Then I've upgraded now to this real live ventriloquist dummy with a slot jaw that opens and closes. And I'm going to do my show, maybe in English class, maybe at lunch break at the junior high school. It's 7th grade, so 4th day, get on the bus, and these 3 8th graders, I won't mention their names, Keith and Greg and Dean, who said, "Oh, what's in the bag?" And I said, "Oh, it's my ventriloquist dummy. I'm going to do a show today for everybody." They immediately said, No, you're doing it right now on the bus. "Oh, I can't do it on the bus." "No, you're doing it now." And then "Do you guys want to see Taylor do a show?" The crowd, the bus is like, "Yeah." So I stand back of the bus, like by the exit sign. Get out, Ted. And I start my little routine. One of the jokes was, "Ted, if you were my son, I'd give you poison." And then the dummy says back to me, "If I was your son, I'd take the poison." That was my big punchline. They were not laughing with me. They were laughing at me. I was humiliated. I was,
man,
it was brutal. It was brutal. It was so, it still gives me shivers to think of that moment. It was so bad, but I became a closet ventriloquist. And many people say I should have stayed in the closet. I became a closet ventriloquist until I went to college. And then I started working in college doing comedy shows at the University of Illinois. And I got Ted, and I've been practicing with him alone. And finally now it's my big moment. And I started performing and making money. So that's kind of how I started and got into it.
Wow, that's fascinating. So you started off with the socks, then you created Ted from the dummy that your father and you built. Where did Romeo come into play, and when did you decide that you wanted to not use a hard figure anymore?
Okay, so first, in college, I played football at the University of Illinois. Got hurt badly one year. My knee was in a hip to ankle cast. This was 1976, 77. So it was the Stone Age. Where, they open up your knee, they get a chisel, and they hammer your knee, and they tie it together with some rope, and then they tie it back together. It was very. Today, the same injury, I would have been playing 2 weeks later, but in those days, it was. I have a huge scar. I was in a hip to ankle cast. And my fraternity, Sigma Chi, would have these parties, and they allowed me to MC the dances, especially since I couldn't party with everybody. I was sitting on the side with my cast. So I have a microphone. And one day, a guy comes up to me from another fraternity and says, I'll give you $50 to come to my fraternity next Friday night and perform just like this for us. Oh my gosh. You know, the problem was I needed, when I started performing, I realized right away, oh my gosh, I'm going to need content because I can't just go and wing it.
Right.
So I went home, got my ventriloquist dummy TED, brought it back to campus, and started performing. And then for a graduation gift, I made money all through college doing this. I did fraternity parties, sorority dances, university events, all kinds of stuff. And I was making enough money. It was great. And it was a real eye opener for me because I was making money and I'm taking Econ 101 right at the same time. So, I see how this works. Profit, loss, debit, credit. Oh, this is so easy.
Oh, neat.
So,
okay.
Oh, yeah. It just played right into what I was doing anyway.
Yeah.
So
that was your main job during that time. You didn't have like a side job that you were working. It was doing those shows.
It was the late 70s and disco hit. So my show was 2 turntables and a microphone, not to quote Beck, but 2 turntables and a microphone. And I didn't do any scratching. This was at the very beginning of scratching and rap. The first rap tracks really hadn't even come out yet. At that time, you would just kind of start a record, and then near the end of that record, you'd start the next record. And I was a musician, so a lot of times I would find the key, same key for the 2 disco songs, Casey and the Sunshine Band, Let's Boogie, or I can't remember. Oh, my Boogie Shoes. I think the song was called Boogie Shoes, and it was in the same key as a Donna Summer song. And I would, transfer those both in the same. And then I would take a break with a microphone and do an act with Ted, and then I'd go back to the dance. And it was great. I was booked. I was booked every weekend, and I ended up getting these huge speakers and have a show. And then when I graduated, my father, for my graduation gift, I didn't get a car. I didn't get an endowment. I didn't get a trust fund. My dad went to a magic store in Chicago and bought a wooden-headed slot jaw ventriloquist dummy made by a really nice man from Michigan named Robert Scott, whose family I would meet years later in Las Vegas, which was really great. And I'd never met him. I'd never met the family. But they kind of knew about me as the years went by. Anyway, I had this wooden-headed figure. So I get out of college, move to Chicago, and I go to this theater called the Second City Theater in Chicago to become a comedy writer actor. And it's, I take my dummy. I've got my new wooden-headed dummy, which I named JP. I'm done with the TED thing. Sorry, Dad. This is my own act now. I've got my own, right? So I go to Chicago, and I'm going to, I don't interview. I get there, and you're auditioning now. I don't know anything about improvisation comedy, which is what the Second City Theater is famous for. Lots of people currently working there are brilliant. When I was there, the cast had Dan Castellaneta was in the same cast as I was, and he's the voice of Homer Simpson. That kind of gives you an idea of who these people are. They're just lots of Saturday Night Live people came from there. So I go just because I've heard of the place. I want to be part of the comedy scene. I go and I'm auditioning to be in the cast. And while I'm doing my audition, the producer comes in and says, Taylor Mason, it says here on your resume you can read music and play the piano. Yes, I can. So she has me audition as a piano player right there during the interview. It's a simple song. The coolest thing I remember about the whole thing was she puts the sheet music in front of me, and it's a vamp. And the words, the first words I'll never forget are, I hate liver, liver makes me quiver, liver makes me cry up and down. So that's it. I'll never forget that. So I'm like, this is the song. So I play a little bit like that, and she goes, you're hired. So I got a union gig right away. Boom. I'm working at the Second City Theater in Chicago, not doing ventriloquism, but down the street from the Second City is a comedy club called Zany's Comedy Club. And after maybe a year of working at the Second City, I start doing my own thing, branching out and meeting people in show business in Chicago. And I start going to these little dive clubs or bars or saloons, or some of them were really nice in hotels. They would have a comedy night, or they would have actors come in, singing night on a Thursday night at 11 o'clock. Actors from the local shows would come in and perform, and I would go in with my dummy and do shows. Went to the Second City, got hired almost immediately as an MC, ventriloquist MC for the comedy shows, and that is when I started using my wooden-headed figure more and more. I stopped using it, Landon. One night, I'm on a train going from the north end of Chicago to the south end of Chicago. So I'm taking the L, which is short for elevated train. And the train didn't go all the way. It was a little mom and pop pizza joint on the south side of Chicago, in the suburbs, actually. I should get off the train. I have to walk about 2 miles to the gig. And I've got my wooden-headed puppet, JP, in a nylon bag, and it's pouring rain. It's like February, cold, pouring rain, and I'm walking for 2 miles. I get to the gig, I'm late. You're on right away. So I walk up, open the bag, water pours out as if he was in a bath, as if the puppet had taken a bath, which he had. And I take the puppet out. He's soaking wet. Put my hand in the bag, grab the stick and the control for his mouth, but he's warped. His mouth is stuck. So but I've been working at Second City, so I kind of feel what improvisation is about. And so I do a whole thing with the puppet. Your mouth is stuck. This is gonna be a tough show to do. Can you say anything? I'm doing as much as I can. I killed my 40 minutes, but as I'm walking back to catch the train, I'm in the rain. The puppet is the slot jaws. I decide to myself, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to go get a Muppet-like figure, and I'm going to start working with those. And I get in touch with a guy in Chicago named Frank Marshall, who is a great magician and ventriloquist. And he tells me about a woman named Verna Finley who makes soft-headed figures. I call her on the phone, long distance call, big deal. And she says, oh, yes, I can send you something that you want. She said, can you send me a picture of what you want? No, I'll draw it. So I drew what I wanted, and maybe 3 months later, I get this soft-headed figure, Muppet-like figure, and I've been using those ever since.
Wow. That's amazing. Yeah. We've had a few other people on here talk about how they came in contact with Verna because they've been using her stuff, and now Marianne and Melissa Taylor have taken her torch, and they do amazing work as well.
I do a lot of work with Marianne and Melissa, and they are lifesavers to me, and they're brilliant. Verna was brilliant, but there's a lot. I like what you do. I like the work that you do. I like Steve Excel's work, Barry Gordon. It's a funny thing because a lot of people think of ventriloquists as these weird loner guys alone in a hotel room with their puppet, and they're kind of psychotic, and the puppet is their real personality coming out through their arm. But the truth is, ventriloquists, for the most part, are really good at working with other people because we need good sound, we need good light, we need good tech, and we need writers. A lot of us use writers to write material for our act. And a lot of us don't build our own figures. I started, I guess, making my own, but then after a while, you find out about these people, Verna Finley, Marianne and Melissa, as you just talked about yourself. And these are professional builders. So ventriloquists are not really loners so much. We are more, we are more involved with a lot of other people than you would think, just because for our act, sound is important. You have to be able to see. You need the great figure. You need great material, to kill time so you can make a living. So we're not really loners.
Wow. So I'm curious with the character Romeo, did he always have the eyebrow movement? Because that's a really unique thing on a soft puppet.
Yeah. Okay. No, I'm trying to think. The very first Romeo I ever had, actually, Verna had built, and it didn't have moving eyebrows. Oh. And so I got the puppet figure character, and I called her right away and said, I love it, except the eyebrows don't. I thought the eyebrows were going to go up and down. And she said, well, it's very difficult to do with a soft-headed figure. And she said, I've done it a little bit, but I'm not real comfortable with it. And I said, I would pay you extra to make the eyebrows go up and down. Do you have any? And she said, this is what I would do. And so I'm going to bring, this is a Marianne Taylor and Melissa Taylor figure, but this is, what is this? We're doing up here, get in the camera, okay? Try to get, other way. Oh, sorry. No.
Here, let me make you the,
Oh, there you go. Okay, whatever. Good, I got it. Right.
All right.
We're good. So the eyebrows go up and down, and Verna basically told me, I said, I can't really wait. So she explained to me what to do. So the eyebrows are basically a coat hanger, believe it or not. Really? Yes. And there's a thing called a dart gun, which I was familiar with, believe it or not, because I had a grandmother, seamstress. My grandmother was a seamstress, thanks. And she was, yes, Mildred, yes. And you can punch a hole in foam, which is what these Marianne Taylor figures are, and the Verna figures were. It'll just boom, put a hole there, boom, put a hole here, like a lobotomy. It's not like a lobotomy. And then you stick the coat hanger all the way through, bend it so that there's an eyebrow on top. It's just a coat hanger. We just cover it with pipe cleaner. And then on the inside, everybody has their own way of doing it. The original one I did was I twisted the coat after 4 or 5 times of hit and miss. It was hurt. No, it wasn't. I finally figured out that I needed something in there. So I just put the thimble, similar to the one my dad had made with me years before, put the thimble on the end. I think I duct taped it inside the head. And I made the eyebrows go up and down. And ever since then, don't put me down. I'm going to put you down. No, don't. So ever since then, whenever I have the puppets built for me, I always ask. But now I'm at the point with Marianne and Melissa where they already know.
Yeah.
They're like, not another, you don't want the big-headed puppet again, do you? Oh, yes, I want the giant-headed puppet. And I can just, without seeing them, I can see them on the phone. And I know that when you're working with foam, I know this from my own experience from doing this, the bigger the head, the more difficult everything is. The sewing, the cheekbones, everything becomes a little more intense. But I love the big heads because I do a lot of work for, I'm in theaters a lot. And now this is changing over the last 5 to 10 years. But for most of my career in these big theaters, there was no IMAG. There weren't the big screens, right? So you would go up there with your soft-headed figure, but people in the back could barely make out the puppet. Right. So as years have gone by, I've convinced Marianne to build these humongous-headed puppets, which I love. I know it's a pain for her, but from the audience standpoint, plus it lends a unique, personalized character to what I do with my act. When you're clicking through the YouTube or the TV channels or whatever, he's that guy with a weird big-headed puppet. I've seen him before, But it's not just the head. The whole puppet is larger than what they're used to building. But it's interesting, and I do the same thing for myself. I've got an old man character named Mervyn, and he has moving eyebrows, but I built him bigger, and I used thicker foam for the head so you could see him from afar. So I totally get. But that's more difficult, right? I mean, there's. It is, it's when you have thicker foam and you're trying to do max, and it all has its own, How does this go together? It's a lot of testing in the workshop, but it's definitely neat. So so you were doing these gigs at Zany's and various comedy clubs. When did Star Search come into play? Was that later on? Was that earlier? My career, it's an interesting thing because even though, I've worked as a musical director, I've worked as a comedy writer at the Second City, and then I became like an improvisational actor. Clearly by happenstance, because I auditioned to be an actor, but got a job as a musical director, and then for whatever reason, people would miss a gig or something, and I would have to play a part. So I'd be playing the piano for a little while, and then I'd go up on stage and perform, and then I'd run back and play the intro and outro music. And then I started working at Zany's, where I became like a ventriloquist MC. But a lot of times the comics, Jay Leno would be a good example, Jerry Seinfeld, another, Richard Lewis, they would come up to me after, Leno was the first one. I don't know if you're not familiar, but I'm a stand-up comic, and I don't think it's really appropriate if you bring me up with a puppet. So just bring me up as Jay Leno, okay? And he pat you on the shoulder. So, okay, I get it. The real comics the hip hot also happening comics don't want to be introduced by Puppet Boy, which I didn't care. So it meant that I had to work on my stand-up comedy, which is interesting because that ended up making my ventriloquism strong, my ventriloquist act stronger, believe it or not. I think because, you know, Second City is very much like Saturday Night Live, which is very much like sitcom writing. So it all kinds of synchronizes and blends together in some amorphous goo of comedy. But I'm kind of glad that I had that experience. And that helped me working towards Star Search because I auditioned for that show probably 7 or 8 times before I actually got on the show. And my booking, the guy that was, I don't really work with agents or managers. The people that I work with long term. And the first guy that I worked with was a man in Chicago named Joey Edmonds, just a lovely, wonderful man who got me lots of college gigs. I did tons, like maybe 2,500 college gigs all over America.
2,500.
Oh my gosh, I did. I can't even tell you how many. Sometimes I was doing 3 in a day, and I did tons of those. And then he introduced me to a guy named Rick Rogers, who was in Los Angeles, and Rick was very, very smart. Handled Bill Engvall from Blue Collar Comedy, and Rick lives in Dallas now, as a matter of fact. But a very good, just a really good man, a lovely man, and helped me a great deal. And he said, we're going to get you on Star Search. And we got on, and he was very smart. He said, you're going to win Star Search by attrition. And I think that's kind of, I could have named the book, Taylor Mason, I Win by Attrition. You have 2 minutes on this show. I have auditioned like 8 or 9 times, and I finally get on. He introduced me to somebody who knows somebody who gets me on the show. So now I've auditioned, I'm on Star Search, and I'm going to be competing against other comedians. You get 2 minutes to do your act. And then the audience judges how many, you get 1 star, 2 stars, 3 stars, or 4 stars. And the way we approached it was, we're going to pack as many jokes into my 2-minute box as possible. So the idea for me had been 3 jokes a minute, which would have been 6. We pushed that to 8. This is the idea. I'm going to do 8 jokes in 2 minutes. The other guy might do let's say 6 jokes, and every single one of them kills. So he's got 6. I'm going to do 8 jokes. All I have to do is have 7 kill, and then that beats him by 1. So that's how we did it. So a lot of guys too, they would do character. They would do 3 punchlines, just blow the room away. But I would go out and do my 8. So even if 4 of them missed, if 4 of them hit, I win. So I was winning week after week. It was, you go on one, and what they would do, they'd film 2 weeks on one day. So you go on in the morning, do the show, I'd win, come back in the afternoon, do another show, I win, come back the next week, do a show, I win. And I was probably on 8 weeks in a row and never lost. And then got into the finals and used the same mentality. And then you could repeat your greatest hits from the 8 previous shows that I had done, which is I did. And then I won the show. It was $100,000. And it's one of those things where one day the manager, Rick Rogers, he's calling everybody and begging them. And then after that, I'm just getting booked. So now, and then you're getting, because you have a little clout, especially with whatever network Star Search had been. It was a syndicated show. So you go to San Francisco and you do Good Morning San Francisco as the winner of Star Search. And then you play the Punchline Comedy Club for 3 nights. And then you go to Minneapolis and you do Good Morning Minneapolis. And then you play. And so I did, that lasted for probably 3 or 4 years. And it was a good thing. Another interesting thing about that is my act is very punchline intensive. And I had gone to Northwestern University to graduate school, and I had a professor named Don Schultz, who's a very brilliant man, a brilliant marketing genius. I was in a master's program in advertising, and Don Schultz is professor emeritus just for advertising, period. And he had a couple of great sayings. You would hand in a paper, and his whole thing was, whatever you had written, he would say, who cares? And he would write on your paper, who cares, Christopher? And then when he would hold out your paper for the class, here's what Taylor Mason wrote, who cares? That was his thing. And so you have to make people care, whatever you write. It has to be something people are, you have to think, maybe my jokes, what I want to write about are flowers, but how many people in the audience in the comedy club want to, I have to write about stuff that they enjoy,
Sure.
or make it so funny that they enjoy the fact that I'm writing about stuff I want to write about, to answer the who cares question. The second thing he taught was be efficient with words and get to the point. And I took that in my career as get to the punchline as quickly as you possibly can, as few words as possible, which fit into Star Search, because I'm trying to fit 8 jokes into 2 minutes. So I was not Mr. Schultz's favorite student at Northwestern University, but he taught me a great deal. And it was years later before I realized, my gosh, this is exactly what Professor Schultz was teaching in marketing.
Wow. How did you decide what characters and what pieces you were going to use on Star Search?
Yeah, Star Search, I stuck with one. This was a big thing. Again, Rick Rogers had just a huge influence on me, because I had all these puppets that I could use. And he said, you know what, the best thing to do, stick with one. Just stick with one figure every show, so that when people tune in, they're going to see, oh, this is who, and it was Romeo, a soft-headed Verna Finley Romeo, I believe. Oh, no, it was one of the first Marianne Taylor Romeos. And so every week, Romeo changed his clothes every week, but just so that people would recognize, oh, here he is with Romeo again. So now Romeo came, the reason Romeo is named Romeo is specifically for the reason that Romeo is everything that I'm not. So he thinks he's funnier than he is. He thinks he's very hot. He thinks he's very interesting. He thinks he's very hip, hot, and happening, basically, and always trendy. He's always on the cutting edge. In his mind, that's who he is. So when I was thinking of names to replace JP, Romeo became more of, it just became more and more, in my mind, he's a real Romeo. He thinks in every way, he's just, guys want to be his best friend, and the girls want to date him. He's just so cool. And so as the years have gone by, he's become more Romeo-ish than I could possibly have imagined him ever being.
Wow. I'm sure that it's easier to write for him, though, too.
And everything.
Because you have that character defined.
The character is defined. So the latest stuff I've worked on with him, it is. So, all the jobs that he has, with Romeo's job resume is always stuff related to being a puppet or a mannequin. So the last thing that just in the last probably 3 or 4 months, he is a CPR dummy, which, let's just do this. It'll give you an idea about the whole way that we write. So we're going to do this. Yes. So the whole way that we actually write together, I'll give you the credit. Thank you. All right. So Romeo's going to be a CPR dummy. So the first joke is, what are you going to be?
Cardiopulmonary resuscitation.
Right. Say it again.
Cardiopulmonary resuscitation.
And tell everybody why you like saying cardiopulmonary resuscitation.
I like to see you say the words without moving your lips.
Exactly, because saying cardiopulmonary resuscitation over and over,
very hard to do.
Right. So there's so many. Now, when you practice a ventriloquism routine, you're not just writing the jokes.
That helps.
That helps a lot. But you also have the physical stuff, because you've got your live character.
Not really live.
No. But okay, so this is what you do as a cardiopulmonary resuscitation dummy.
This is it.
Right. And then people come and they're breathing into your mouth.
And it's disgusting.
So now the jokes can kind of write themselves. Do you enjoy this?
No.
And tell everybody why?
I taste a lot of things I would never eat otherwise.
Right.
Kale.
Okay.
Folks, brush your teeth.
Right. So a lot of the joke writing for a cardiopulmonary resuscitation dummy, and how many people just during a day, how many nurses would practice breathing into you? Just give us an example.
100.
100 a day. So you're just laying there all day.
Yep. Until number 99.
So number 99 comes and they breathe into you and you're just laying there. What do you finally do?
They do this.
Thank you. Okay. I'm alive. Yeah. Okay, good. So that is, but it probably took to get to the point where I get to that punchline, took, like I'm doing right now with you. I'm in front of a mirror instead of in front of video camera. We're in front of a mirror, and it is boring. Okay, it's a little bit boring.
Yeah, older and older and older. Yeah.
Okay, but I practice a lot and watch my lips all the time. Cardio, pulmonary, resuscitation. Good. So practice that enough so you can feel comfortable not moving your lips when you're on camera doing a real show.
Thank you, London.
All right, so.
Thanks,
enough.
Romeo.
So that's kind of how, and again, the idea with the final joke of after the 99th person has breathed life into you, what do? Thank you. That should be, to me, that should be enough of a punchline right there. And you can add tags. But the great thing about that punchline is it's a 2-word punchline. And I don't know why this is, but again, to go back to Don Schultz at Northwestern University, the shorter the punchline, the bigger the laugh. Now, I don't know why that works that way, but if you watch sitcoms, a lot of times the biggest laughs are when somebody goes, no. You know, you watch Seinfeld, huh? And the place, it's like the biggest laugh of the whole show. I don't know why that is, that 1-syllable, 1-word punchlines, thank you, get a bigger laugh than, you know, the one where you really put a lot of thought in and you word it perfectly and you get down to the essential elements that make up a perfect punchline and it gets a laugh, but nothing like the, huh?
Well, it's neat. I love your style of comedy as a ventriloquist too, because you build up the illusion with your pig characters that you have, and then Romeo and all the other characters that you use, and then you break it and you toss them down and you move on to something else, whether it's a musical aspect to your show or you're doing stand up. And so it's this: you're not just a ventriloquist, but you're a performer, and you've got all these different aspects to your show, and it's just truly neat. It creates a truly neat dynamic.
Thanks, Landon. Brian Dorfman runs a comedy club. I've worked for him many times. He ran a comedy club in the Chicago suburb called Zanies, and now he runs a very successful, one of the most successful comedy clubs in the country, Zanies in Nashville. Thanks, Brian. But a great guy, good friend. But he often has said that my act is a little bit like a Grateful Dead concert or a Fish concert, or any jam band concert, because a lot of times it's the way he put it is also, it's kind of like Santa Claus. I bring a bag on stage instead of coming down the chimney. I bring the bag on stage. I throw the bag down. What's in here? Open the bag. Oh, it's a pig. And the pig. I do a little act. And all right, well, how far can you go with a pig? 8 minutes. You're gone. Let's play the piano, and then how long can you go with the piano? Let's go 10 minutes. Well, now what? Let me tell a story about myself. I do a little stand-up for 10 minutes. You know what? I'm going to go back to the pig now and grab the pig. Let's get another pig. No,
But I'm curious, is it just every time you go on stage, it's whatever you have and whatever you decide to pull out first, or is there an order to it?
Oh, there's an order. Actually, you know what the truth of that is? There's a show that I want to do. There's the Taylor Mason show. This is the show I want, A to Z. Starts here, and then I'm just really cool. It's like all the best qualities of me. It's so amazing. And there's a beautiful character arc to the entire thing. And then a big finale at the end. Poof, thank you and good night. The truth is, I get to do that show maybe twice a year. Otherwise, you're in a comedy club, you're getting heckled. Well, there goes I'm just dropping that whole thing. And I'm doing a song, I'm just going to get these guys settled down. And now I get to a place, this has happened a lot. I get to a theater. Great, I can't wait to do my show. Well, do you mind if most of the audience is under the age of 6? Well, I have no problem with that. I just wish you would have told me maybe even an hour ago. But, oh my gosh, so how many kids? 350. So you got 350 5 and 6-year-olds. Well, I'm not going to be doing my, esoteric take on the sun and how it's affecting human life. We're going to be doing lots of,
Right.
I'm going to be mugging. The puppets are going to be making fun of me. I might get water squirted on anything to make fun of, myself, so that 6-year-olds laugh. And that happens a lot too. Every once in a while, there's a moment where I'm in a theater or a comedy club, or I'm on a cruise ship or something, and everything kind of oh my gosh, I'm doing the show that I want to do. Oh, it's so amazing. And that happens, like I said, twice a year.
Wow. Wow. Well, how do you deal with hecklers? That's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
And do you have a
everybody
heckler
has their own-
story that you could share?
First, I think I'm hard to heckle. I
Okay.
think my act is hard to heckle because we've been talking about, I'm just moving between all these different parts. Piano, ventriloquism, stand-up, audience participation. You come up on stage, you get the puppet. Okay, give me the puppet. You sit down. You come up here. I'm going to make you do the puppet.
Right.
I'm going
Your act never is stagnant. Yeah.
And, okay, so it's hard
Yeah.
for the heckler and sometimes I can tell they want to get in there and they're trying really hard, but I plow ahead because I found out, especially in comedy clubs, the best way to handle a heckler and the best thing for the waitresses and the staff and the waiters and everybody is if the comic or the act on stage can just keep going and negate the heckler. That just makes the entire experience better for everybody. Nobody has to worry because the guy's just so strong, the heckler loses. Now, it doesn't always work. And I've had experiences, and what I usually do, there's a song, a Mose Allison blues song from like 1965 called Your Mind is on Vacation, but Your Mouth is Working Overtime, which I've used many times. I make up my own lyrics, and I'm very insulting and mean, and the guy, and it's hard when you're playing a blues thing on the piano. You're a moron. Did you know that? You're really stupid. It's really hard for the guy he's trying to shout over your music and the crowd is cheering and they're pointing at the guy.
Yeah.
But there was this comedy club on Long Island. I love this story. And I'm getting heckled by a table of 4 on my left. So they're over here in the corner. And from the moment I start, they don't even know who I am or what I do. They're just heckling me. Right. And they're mean. And my usual thing with hecklers, if I'm going to acknowledge them, is I try not to use stock lines. I don't come to the supermarket and take the grocery carts when you're trying to work, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I try to engage them in some way, right?
Okay.
Why are you here? Why did you come here? We came here to laugh and there's no show. Well, the show has started and nobody wants to hear you. So I think that you came here for a whole another reason. I think you came here to prove to everybody what a moron. So I engage them, and they don't shut up. And the other people in the audience are yelling at them, shh, let him do his act, but they won't stop. So on this night, I don't know why, but I feel like, you know what? I'm going to go over and I'm going to talk to them. So I take the microphone, it's got a long enough cord, and I'm walking through, excuse me, pardon me, I want to go talk to these people who don't like me. So I walk over to them with the mic, and I turn to the audience, and this is probably 30 minutes into my show. Listen, everybody, I'm just going to talk to these guys, just these people and me. We're just going to have a conversation. You do whatever you want to do. I'm going to talk to them. And of course, nobody does what they want to do. They all want to see. It's like, I get all the focus of the whole place. I can just feel every eye. So I turn, seriously, why are you guys here? And one of the women there said, you're intimidating me. And I said, no, lady, this is my show. You're in my office. If you don't want to watch a comedy show, that's fine with me. Leave. If you guys don't know how to act, get out of here. And they're cursing at me and everything. But one of the women is like, honey, let's get out of here. He's scaring me. He might hurt me. So of course, I might hurt you. And I'm yelling at him. And I keep trying to tell the rest of the audience, don't worry, you guys, I'll be right back on stage in a minute. I'm just talking to my friends over here. And I would turn back and I talk. And it's the wildest. So they got up and left. The 4 of them got up, and the crowd goes crazy. Yeah. And I go back up on stage. I finish my performance. I'm all done. I walk out, and the club owner, Jimmy, comes up to me, and he's like, man, I had this huge complaint. He didn't even come into the club. He never came in. He never knew anything was wrong. When these people came out, they said, you came over to the table and you were going to kill them? And I said, no. I said something about I'm killing, but I wasn't talking about killing them. So he said, well, I had to comp them because they were so upset and they felt threatened. The woman was crying. So that's one favorite story I've had. And I started using it. So I started using that technique. I would get heckled And a lot of times what I would do is let the hecklers go, and I would just work for my 45 minutes. And then I would turn this at the end. My show's over, everybody. I'm going to go talk to these people, because I've learned how to do this now because I've done it, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to go talk to these guys over here who've been shouting at me the whole show. Show's all over. And I would walk over. Nobody leaves. And I would talk to them the same way. And every time I've ever done it, the hecklers finally get up and walk out, and the crowd goes crazy. Oh, I didn't know you guys were going to stay. The show's over. But thanks anyway. Good night. And I would, yeah. So that's been my heckler routine, I guess. I've used a few times. And of course,
Sure.
To put guys in their place, a lot of times you can just use Romeo, because he'll just be, mean.
Yeah.
It'd just be brutally mean, just personal and mean and nasty stuff I would never do.
Right.
So he's another, he's a good foil for that. But those are two of my favorite heckle stories.
Wow, I love that. That's hilarious. What is one of your favorite show memories, and then one of your most difficult or challenging show memories? And it can be any show from anything you've ever done.
My favorite show, I just like to work.
Uh-huh.
So I love doing shows. Here's a good one though. Years ago, I used a sumo wrestler figure, and giant. This was built by Marianne Taylor, and it took us a long time. I drew a picture of what I wanted, and she said this was a life-size sumo wrestler, huge, bigger than me. It was huge, bigger than life. And Marianne said, well, how am I going to build this thing? I mean, it's a great idea, but how can I build? So we talked maybe and sent pictures back and forth. And I finally thought of, what if you could find a balloon? And she said, what about a beach ball? So Marianne, of course, goes out and finds this huge beach ball that would fit inside the back of the sumo wrestler puppet. And every night before the show, I have to blow this thing up, and he would become this, huge puppet with this sumo wrestler head. And then I would have a woman come out of the audience. She would sit down. The sumo wrestler would sit on top of her, and she would operate the mouth. And it was a lot of fun to do because the mouth was, I am sumo. And the reason it's my favorite part of my show is because I couldn't get it to work. Okay, for for a year. I could not get it to work. So I'm flying all over the country with this thing, and it's not working. And what a waste of money and time. And I'm embarrassed, and I'm going to have to call Marianne and say, this idea didn't work. Now we're at the same comedy club on Long Island, Governance Comedy Club, and I'm working with a great guy who passed away years ago, Stan Bernstein. Global Entertainment Network was his company, and he was my business manager. And his secretary comes to the show and watches the first show on a Friday night, and I do the show, and then I bring up sumo, and it doesn't work. I haven't yet brought anybody out of the crowd. I'm just doing the act with sumo, and it goes nowhere, and I throw them away. Intermission, or I'm between two shows. It's between the first show and the second show, sitting in the bar with a secretary from Stan's office, Long Island girl, smoking a cigarette, and she says, the sumo wrestling doesn't work. It's not funny. I don't even know why you do it. And I'm, well, you're right. I don't. Listen, why don't you have a girl come up out of the audience, have her operate the puppet? Maybe that'll work. I gotta go. So she walks out, and I'm like, what? So I can't wait for this.
Mind blown.
The
Yeah.
comics are going up, and they're doing. I don't even know if I can't stop. I can't wait. I go up on stage with the sumo wrestler. I get introduced. I just walk up. I'm carrying him, his back to the audience, throw him down on the stool. This is my friend Sumo. I need a helper. And a bunch of hands go up. I bring this girl up. She comes up on stage. I sit her down, put the sumo wrestler, and as soon as the sumo wrestler sits on her lap, the place is going out. People are laughing. She can't figure out how to put her hand in the puppet. The head is all of a sudden, moving around in all sorts of weird ways.
Yeah.
And for like 20 minutes, I'm killing in ways. And the whole time I'm thinking, this is going to be something that's going to get me a lot of work. And it did. It got me, I don't know how much work I got. And now, years later, so I would do that. After that, I never saw the girl again. I don't even remember her name. God help me. How stupid is that? But she changed the trajectory of my career at the time forever. And now what I do is I do a lot of work for Disney, which I don't know what's going to happen here with the pandemic. But what I've been doing for many years is I got rid of sumo because it's just so big. But I have many people come up on stage, children, adults. I give them all puppets. So I have 4 or 5 people on stage. They have their own puppet, and I try to sync the words as they move the mouth. So I'm using my improvisation skills from Second City. I'm using my comedy skills from Don Schultz. I'm using my ventriloquism skills, and I'm using the advice from the secretary in like 1995 about how to make up. Exactly, and of course, it's one of those routines that people to this day. I mean, I get people say my favorite comedy thing I've ever seen is when you bring everybody up out of the audience and give them all a puppet. And a lot of times, what I do now too is for children, I'll bring the kids up and they'll operate a penguin or a little guinea pig, and I'll give the children, for helping me out, I'll give them a puppet so they go home with a memory of the night. Neat. Yeah. So I mean, but all that came from someone a secretary. This doesn't work at all. It's not funny. You gotta cheat. Gosh, yeah. She changed my career.
Well, there's clips of it out on YouTube, and what's hilarious is whenever you put sumo on the person's lap, they're sitting on a stool. You have them sit on a stool. You pull sumo over their lap, and they disappear. You can't see them anymore, and it's so funny. It was so funny. Oh my gosh, that's great.
It's just one of those things that who could have predicted it.
Yeah.
And I thought, and when Marianne and I came up with the concept, it was so different. It was nothing about audience participation at all. I didn't even want to do audience participation, but it turned out to be such a great thing. And it's kind of manifested itself into something even better now, frankly. But yeah, sumo was great. The only problem with sumo is you're backstage at a comedy club. I get there an hour before showtime, sound check, whatever. We don't have a piano. I don't care. I got to blow up my sumo. I'm in the green room, and Marianne so the puppet's body, if you can imagine this huge thing, and there's a slit in the lower back where I open it up and I blow up the puppet. And I can't tell you how many times I've been in a comedy club and I've got the puppet splayed out on the chair, and I'm blowing him up, and people come in. Oh no, it's one of these freaky ventriloquist things. So I've demented lots of people's lives by sumo. So I stopped traveling with sumo.
Oh wow, man, that's hilarious. Well, you talked a little bit about working for Disney. How did that come to be, and what was your show already perfect for Disney when you had started with them? And
I don't curse, so there's no cursing on stage. So that's one thing right there. There's one. They're just the Disney brand. To work for Disney in movies or television is very different than working for Disney live in a theme park or on a cruise ship. Because on a Disney cruise ship, you are working for families, and they have these 2,500 seat Broadway theaters with everything perfect, sound, lights, tech. It does not get any better. IMAX screens, it's perfect. Everything is great, but don't be dirty. Just to get to the point, stay out of the bedroom, stay out of the bathroom, and do lots. But that's what I do anyway. Midnight show at the Improv, midnight show at Zany's. I'm squeaky clean, especially compared to most of the other comics that work these days. So, I don't really care. That's what I do. That's just me. That's just my milieu, whatever you want to call it. That's what I do. I guess if I wanted to, I could probably be risque, and I am sometimes, but I never blew. I never get vulgar, which is perfect for Disney. It's a family show. They have a brand that they're very, very brand conscious company. By far, the most brand conscious group I've ever worked with, and that's fine. I know that going in. I was actually introduced to Disney by Jerry Abramson and Dan Abramson, another who I've never worked with as a client, but they were the ones who first put Disney on the radar for me. And then the man I work with now, my business partner, Tim Grable, and I came up with a deal with the Disney Cruise Line business. And that was 15 or 16 years ago. And I've been doing 20 to 25 cruises a year for Disney ever since then, which I enjoy. I do a lot of shows. I do a ton of shows. Now, I don't know what's going to happen with the pandemic. I don't know what the future is. I don't know if it's good, bad, medium, what's going to happen, audience participation, what's going to happen.
Sure.
I don't know. But I'm going to guess that Disney's probably going to figure out a way to get their boats in the water, to get their theme parks open, to get their movies back into theaters and people paying a fee to come see shows.
Yeah.
And what I've done from the very beginning with Disney is I work with them. I work with their creative people. I work with their techs to make sure that my program fits exactly what they want. And I give the audience exactly what the audience is expecting from a Disney first class show. They charge a lot of money on those ships. And the reason they charge a lot of money is they give the audience exactly what they want. You have to do, what I usually have to do is a couple of family shows, and then I have to do a couple of adult shows, and maybe a couple of workshops, or kind of like what we're doing here, where I just talk about my career and have fun with kids and adults and answer questions about my career. So it's a lot of work. You're only out there for 4 or 5 days, but I work a lot when I'm out there. But it's a great job. I've loved working for Disney. I've enjoyed it.
Wow.
Immensely.
Do you know, are you friends with Lynn Trefsker?
Lynn Trefsker is an amazing person. She's just an amazing person. Lynn, regardless of the fact that she's an incredibly talented and just wonderful ventriloquist, she's a great person. And I know Lynn is very, very popular with Disney Cruises. Yeah. And the reason I know that is because I'll go and do my tech, and the guys are all like, "Oh, we just had Lynn Trefsker here. She's really good." Oh, well, that's really great to hear. Thank you so much. No, man, if you ever see her act, she's really great. I mean, she's a really good act. Yeah, okay, I get it. So, yeah,
but it must be neat to be able to chat with her and compare notes. Yeah, I did that Disney Cruise Line, or what do you think about this? That's neat.
Actually, Lynn, she's really, really busy. And I have not. The last time I talked to her was actually at the Ventriloquist convention in Fort Mitchell. So that was a couple of years. Oh, wait, was it last year? I can't remember. Whenever it was, that last time I saw her, and we actually did the Saturday night show at the Ventriloquist convention on Saturday night, the big finale. And this last time that I was there, I guess it was last summer, Lynn and I were on the same show, and she just knocked the audience out, and I had to go on after her.
So I want to move on to your book here, Taylor Mason, Irreversible. What was the inspiration behind writing this? I've read this cover to cover. It's phenomenal. A lot of fun to read, and really neat to hear your story. What inspired you to write it?
Well, it's my second book. The first book I wrote was called The Complete Idiot's Guide to Ventriloquism, which I didn't enjoy writing at all. I think the people that want it, that the Complete Idiot's Guides are really great. It's a whole series of Complete Idiot's Guide to Sailing, workshop, wood shop, whatever you want to do. There's the same thing. The Ventriloquism for Dummies is a similar thing. So when they came to me to do the Complete Idiot's Guide, I think I was probably 10th on the list. And they talked to 9 other people. They probably wanted somebody of note, but everybody's busy. And they finally got down to me. And it was one of those deals where I got paid up front. So if you buy the book on my recommendation, now I'm not promoting anything because I don't get paid. I got an upfront fee. So, but it was my first book. It was a lot of work, and I had 2 editors bugging me all the time. But it gave me an idea of how to write a book, how to beginning, middle, and end, how to put it all together. And the whole time I'm writing, I was thinking, gosh, I'm going to write my own book. I'm going to write my own book. And I talked to the editors. And they said, "Oh yeah, if you want to write," we had to churn this thing out. That first book in a matter of like 6 or 8 months, and I cranked it out. It was a ton of work. Yeah. Got it done. Got my check. It sold like crazy. Still sells. Thank you. And then I started my second book. So that came out in 2011, and the book that you just Irreversible took me 7 years to write. It was supposed to be a 2-year deal. It took me 7 years to write it. And the reason for that is I had diaries from back when I was in high school all the way through college. And it was a labor of love. Went through 2 different editors and 2 different publishing companies. Finally got it published last year. It's gotten a lot of great reviews. I'm so glad you love it. Everybody's enjoyed it. It's gotten about 20 good reviews on Goodreads. It's got a bunch of good reviews on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Google Play. It's $3 for the ebook. So if you got nothing to do during a pandemic, it's basically a lot of the stories that I've told here are similar stuff from when I started to how I got to the point where I'm at now, and lots of stories. I've met just about everybody in comedy from the 80s through the 2000s, and I tell a lot of stories about meeting all these people and working with them. And I've been around all these people in comedy for my entire career. I met my wife through my career. My wife was working at the Second City Theater while I was there, and I met her. She was a very talented actress at the time when I met her. She was making more money than me. Then I ruined her life and got her out of. And actually, my wife, very talented. She worked at MTV. She was in production at MTV for 3 years in New York City in the heyday. I mean, she was at MTV in the late 80s. Madonna, Billy Joel, Elton John. It was, she rode in a limo with Madonna to the New Year's Eve show at MTV. She went to the MTV Music Awards. She was there, but her husband, dragged her down into the cesspool of ridiculousness which we live in now.
Well, what I love about your book is it's titled Irreversible, and when you finish it, you understand why. And it's the way you finish your book is so, as a newbie going into this art and performing, it's such a showbiz ending that it's such a great.
Well, I learned from the first book. This is what I learned. It's just like building your little ventriloquist act.
Yeah.
I'm going to do my act with Ted, and with Ted and I are going to come out. It's going to be an opening where, and the big joke is going to be at the end. And, if I was your son, I'd take the poison. Yeah, thank you, everybody, and good night. And you put it back in the bag. So it's going to be the beginning and the middle. It's going to be an arc, and it's going to make a lot of sense. And at the end, there'll be a big explosion of laughter. And so when I wrote the Complete Idiot's Guide, the 2 people who are the editors were very big on, this is the beginning, this is the middle, this is the end, this is how we have to do it, this is our protocol. And although I didn't do it the same way, it gave me great insight to how to write the book. And so with Irreversible, I had come up with the title. And the truth about that is, a good friend of mine, David Nickel, who was a writer at the Miami Herald, a very, very good writer, a beat writer, and feature writer for the Miami Herald for many years, and wrote politics, local politics, show business, everything. Just a brilliant man. And I was telling him one night after a show at a theater somewhere, he came and saw my show, and I'm telling him, you're a writer, newspaper writer. I'm writing a book. And I told him what it was and how I wanted it to, and I told him the story about at the end. And he said, the title of your book should be Irreversible. So once again, a ventriloquist getting help from somebody else, obviously not a loner. I'm working with all these great people, and this guy's a brilliant journalist.
That's amazing because
your book has to be titled Irreversible. And it kind of brought everything, you know what I mean? I got it.
Well, Bob Rumba, we're looking at the comments here. Bob Rumba just commented, I used to go watch Taylor play piano and ventriloquism. So that's super cool.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm a big Bob Rumba fan. Rumba, the first time I saw this guy, now for people who don't know Bob Rumba, he's kind of a Chicago institution. And the first time I ever went to a comedy club was the Comedy Cottage in Chicago on an open mic night. And I actually went up and did a little routine there, a stand-up comedy routine for like 3 or 4 minutes, forgettable. I was with a friend named Bob Williams. We both went, and Bob Rumba was the host. And to me, he was the coolest thing. What he would do is he came out, and he was introducing all the acts, but he did a different character every time he came out. So we had a ventriloquist thing. He did a Groucho Marx thing. He did a clown. He did like 4 or 5, maybe 8 different characters throughout the night. So every time he came on stage, he was a different person. It was really, really cool. And it stuck in my mind. And then years later, I met him in person at a Frank Marshall meeting in Chicago, and he gave me his business card. Bob Rumba came up and I said, "Oh, I know who you are. I saw you at the Comedy Cottage like 6 years ago." Yeah,
Oh,
I love
neat.
that guy. Yeah,
That's
he's a
super
great
neat.
guy.
Well, one of the stories that you had told me before was a story about your pigs, because you see that Romeo, originally built by Verna Finley, now he's you have a bunch of different versions of the character because you need backups as a seasoned performer that are built by Marion and Melissa. But you have these pig characters that are smaller, and can you talk about why you still use them and why they've worked so well for you throughout the
The
years?
pigs. Okay, the pigs. It kind of ties into Disney.
Okay.
And but the pig puppet that I use in my act is no longer built. So the first ones that I used, I had built a pig puppet that did not look anything like this.
Mm-hmm.
But the first puppets that I built, and the whole premise of the thing was, I'll do this for you. The whole premise of that pig was the legs were really soft. It was a foam puppet that I had built myself. It was like think of a sock that was
Sure.
somewhat shaped like a pig. But that puppet, I would do this with the puppet where I'd stick the legs into the body and the puppet became like a whole different, hello, right? Okay. So that was the premise of it. It was an idea that I had in comedy clubs to do because somebody had told me, I think a comedy club owner had said, you should get the audience involved with your puppets. So the idea was to have the puppet would lean down towards somebody. Are you okay? I'm good. I want to meet her. You want to meet her? Okay. And I would pull his leg, and she would pull okay. She would scream, and everybody would cheer. And then I would give it to another person. They would pull the leg out, and that was the whole bit. Then I start working with a guy named Bill Gaither. Hola. We're on a program. Move over here so everybody can see.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, muchas gracias por invitarme a tu programa.
Okay. No more Spanish, okay?
Esta es la mejor entrevista que he hecho.
No. We're not speaking any Spanish. We're going to speak English, okay?
Okay, señor.
All right. So this is Paco. And when I went on the road with Bill Gaither and the Homecoming Artist,
Thank you, Jesus.
yes, a very, very Christian-based gospel tour playing arenas.
Oh,
Yeah, playing big basketball arenas. And Bill Gaither, out of everything that I did, loved the pig puppets. And even though we're in a 20,000 seat arena,
sí,
they could see Paco
sí.
because they had like diamond vision. They would travel around the country with this huge, big screen like over the stage. So I could do close-up ventriloquism.
Sí,
Because even though the pig is really small,
they can see.
they could see everything that I did.
Hello, señor.
Okay, Paco. So Paco, because Bill loved this guy so much, and Bill Gaither, Google him if you're not familiar, brilliant man, one of the best bosses. I did a tour with him in all these arenas all over the world. Carnegie Hall, Sydney Opera House in Australia. We played all over, and Paco became a big part of my show, even bigger than he was before, because Bill really liked the pigs the most. So I incorporated them even more into my act. I knew a little something about pigs because my uncle Art raised hogs. He had a birth to slaughter hog operation years ago on my family's farm out in Grand Ridge, Illinois. And I worked out there for a couple summers, and I learned a little bit about pigs. And then I majored in agriculture at the University of Illinois. So I knew something about pigs. It only made sense when I started putting them in my act. And as I said, Bill really loved it. And then when I left the Gaither tour, I just kept the pig in my act, added more pigs to the act because children really, and you wouldn't believe how many people collect pig figurines, pig puppets, pig dolls. There's a huge industry. And on the Gaither tour, I would sell these. Sometimes I was selling 5,000 pigs a month.
Wow.
At these arenas. So because you're doing a 20,000 seat arena in Detroit one night, and the next night you're at a 20,000 seat hockey arena in Chicago, and then the next night you're at a 20,000 seater in Minneapolis, and I have a little kiosk, and after the show people are coming up and buying my pig puppets. So I did that for 3 years, and then with Disney, the pigs just play in, there's a Disney cartoon, The Three Little Pigs.
Mhm.
So it's just played into everything that I've done ever since. So thank
Sure.
you, Bill Gaither. Thank you, Homecoming Artists. That is kind of the story of the pigs.
That's
The pigs that now they're not made anymore. You can't find these anymore.
Mhm.
I have a few of them, and I have some knockoffs that I built myself. They don't look anything good like this, but
Yeah.
they don't sell these anymore. I think I sold them out. I'm seriously. I think
Wow.
I just blew through their entire thing. Yeah.
Well, that's super neat. I always find it amazing. You see some of the most talented ventriloquial performers, like Sherry Lewis, use nothing and make it a
Right.
total character. And it's always fascinating me how you can take these little pig puppets and give them the character that you do.
That's a really good point.
What are you
I think-
currently?
I think that's a good point. Ventriloquism. A lot of times, you can have the rolling eyes, the eyebrows, the tongue that sticks out.
Yeah.
All the wiggling ears, hair that you can do a bow tie that spins on. You can do all that, and that's great, cool. But I think it's very much like the more minimalist you can be. It's very much like writing the punchlines.
Sure.
The quicker you can access something, the better. And when you have an opportunity to get a ventriloquist figure who has all the eyes open and closed, move back and forth, they roll, whatever, all those great, cool things, that's just going to enhance what you've already been able to create. But if you're able to work minimalist, Jay Johnson has basically worked with a couple of figures. Willie Tyler has worked with just Lester and just done Lester for who knows how many years. Sherry Lewis did Lamb Chop, and she had what was it? Charlie Horse.
Charlie Horse.
She had a couple of different, but it was very basic.
Sure.
And she made all that work. And although I have a lot of puppets, I did a children's TV show for years called Taylor's Attic. It probably had 14 puppets on it, I think. I don't know. But I had professional people operating. I didn't do all the 14. But just working minimalist is really, it makes you better. It enhances everything for you.
Sure. I bet. Yeah, it's like spend time on the character versus money on the puppet type thing.
Well said. And if you, a lot of times too, I think as a ventriloquist, you get enamored with, oh, that's the coolest looking blank figure I've ever seen. I've got to have it. But I think it's always better to, you know what? I think the pig, what if the pig's like are stuck up into his body? Oh, let's do that. And I'll make that work. And then, let's write some pig jokes. And already have in your mind how I want things to go, what the character, the pig's going to speak Spanish. I don't. Oh, that's hilarious. That's have that defined before you build or before you come up with the character. I mean, before you come up with the actual puppet, have it defined what you want it to be. That's always a better way to go. The greatest example is Sumo, which I thought was such a great idea, but I'd never had any material for it. And then when I finally did, I got lucky, but that just taught me from now on, I'm going to define the character and have the basic concept set before I get the puppet.
That's a great rule. That's a great rule.
It is.
Could you talk a little bit about your joke writing process? Does it differ when you write for yourself as a stand-up than when you're writing for Romeo or one of your ventriloquial characters, or even one of your musical aspects to your show?
Okay, so that's hours of, but let me think. Okay, I'm just trying to as an example. This is how it's very much like homework. Writing jokes is very much like homework, and this goes back to Don Schultz's advertising class at Northwestern University. Who cares? And uses few words as possible to get to the punchline. So I'm just trying to think of something. Okay, so the pandemic is going on. This is how I would do it. So I'm going to write pandemic jokes. Pandemic is going on. It's been going on since, it's from the beginning of the year, really. So what a year. So it's not been a good year. So a good year blimp is you can't have a good year blimp, right? Because if I see a good year blimp, I'm going to sue. Okay, so that's how I would do it.
That's it, like the word associations. That's interesting. Okay.
Right. But there's a
Yeah.
lot of ways. There's so many ways. I don't exclude anything. Puns are okay. Word association, anything. But I'll just start with the seed of an idea,
Okay.
and then I'll just keep trying to associate words with it until I can make something funny. And then if it doesn't work, I don't put it in my act. If it does work, I try to. The CPR thing is a great example. It probably, when it started, the whole CPR joke started as a Joe Biden joke.
I'm a CPR dummy.
You're a CPR dummy.
Yeah, one guy was weird.
What do you mean he was weird?
Rubbing my hair, rubbing my shoulders. It was weird.
Who would rub your hair on your shoulders?
Joe Biden.
Okay, so that, but you can't keep going because he might become president, and then so you don't want to be. So but I love the idea of Romeo being a CPR dummy. So that's become like the routine that I did for you earlier. I just and then I just keep writing until I try to come up with 3 punchlines per concept, and then 9 punchlines. It can be like a little hunk, and 18 punchlines, which is like a short set, okay? And then to do a 5-minute monologue, you're gonna probably need somewhere in that 18 to 21 range of punchlines to do. Yeah. And what I'll do is I'll come up with a concept. If it doesn't work for me as a stand-up, give it to Romeo or the pig or the penguin, whatever the puppet is. If that doesn't work, maybe it'll work as a song. Okay, so I used all the skills that I have to try and figure a way to find something that's funny. And you're always trying to keep your act going and improving and different and have new material. And so that's a challenge as well. But as a ventriloquist, comedian, musician, that's my job. So it's homework, and I don't like doing the homework, but I do love it when it works.
Sure. It's that process of how many hours you put into it versus how much gold you're able to pan out with on stage. Yeah, that's
exactly, and it never ends either. It's never ending. I have notes all over the house, in my office actually, of just, oh yeah, I remember this. I was working on this. I'm working right now on this musical thing of my piano. I started with a piano, and it was an electric Casio, and I once killed an audience with and I've been working on this routine for, I want it to be like this big theatrical thing. And since the pandemic has started, I've kind of got it figured out now, how it's going to work. And the piano, I hit it against the Harley Davidson motorcycle. The Harley howled in pain. My piano howled in joy, and I'm going to do this whole thing. But I have all these notes, and I'll look through these notes. Oh, I haven't done that since I was probably 25 years old. I'm going to put that in my act now because I've got time.
Yeah. Wow, that's phenomenal. So are you working on anything right now? Because
yeah, I'm working on, that's a great example. I'm working on that thing. I can't wait to get it out on video. I've been doing every week. I've been doing a new video.
Okay.
I call Live from Taylor Mason headquarters. I didn't get to do this last Monday. Would have been number 10. I couldn't do it because, believe it or not, I've been busy. I got all these jobs. I've been working. I've done virtual shows.
Okay.
For 4 or 5 different companies. I did it for a family, the Stud family. Thank you, Mike and Mrs. Stud, and their kids, Kyle and Cora. Yesterday, I did a thing for my friend Ken, Miss Banks in Las Vegas is a kindergarten teacher, and I did a show for her kids. The day before, I had another thing. I'm busy. I'm doing all these. Tomorrow, I'm doing a program for Eric Friend and some parents and their kids at school. I've got a big thing coming up for another company. I've done an aluminum company. I did a direct marketing company. I did a digital library. I've done a lot of these virtual shows. So I'm pretty busy. Even though I'm not going out on the road and doing Disney cruises and theaters and comedy clubs, I'm still doing a lot of shows.
Sure.
And I've been working. I've always kind of been a wannabe magician. So I've been working on magic. So I might be adding magic to my act, which I've always loved magicians. I work with a lot of them on Disney cruises. And I think I'm going to add magic and have Romeo be a partner, like a Penn and Teller-ish thing
Okay.
with me and Romeo.
I can see it.
Yeah, I'm working on a lot of stuff.
Wow, that's great. I love that. That's super neat. And I'm sure that the virtual shows, they have their own, obstacles too. Just like,
Yeah, the tech is, because I'm used to, I need a mic, this is the sound I need in tech.
Right.
Oh, okay, Mr. Mason. Yeah, I'm used to that. Now, there's no Disney guy from London with a degree, and
Right.
Oh, wait a minute, how does a microphone work? There has to be light.
Yeah.
Look at my hair.
Well, what do you, in wrapping up here, I'm curious to hear what your perspective is on what you hope to see from the future of Vent and from ventriloquism.
Well, ventriloquism, this is the golden age of ventriloquism, thanks to America's Got Talent has been, and I actually did the show, got moved on to Las Vegas, and then they never had me on the show. This has happened to me a lot of shows. Wow. I'm just saying that, just full disclosure. So, and I would like to do this show, but that show and actually be on it. I did the show. The hosts the judges were Pierce Morgan, Howie Mandel, and Sharon Osbourne was the year that I did it. And it went great. Actually, they kind of told me what they wanted. The producers. It's a great show. They have a great concept. And they told me, this is what we want you to do. And I did it. I did exactly what they wanted. And it worked great. I filmed it in New York, so it was kind of like my people. I live in New Jersey. So it was a great night. Oh, yeah, you're going to go to Las Vegas. But I didn't fit what they wanted their show to be, which I completely understand. Yeah. But that has been a great show for ventriloquists. They probably have 2 or 3 on every year. And, of course, Terry Fader won it. Paul Zidane from England won it. And then Darcy Lynn Farmer, who is incredible. All of those 3 are just incredible ventriloquists. They've had a lot of ventriloquists on the show who didn't win the big money or didn't get to the finals, but did a great job. And so that show has been a boon for ventriloquism. But ventriloquists, years ago, you would never see a ventriloquist on a TV show. Yeah, and I remember when I was on Star Search, there were a lot of people who were really upset in the comedy business that I had won, that it should have been a stand-up comic, that I took a prize from somebody who should have won it. Who cares? I really don't care. Whatever. Yeah. But today, ventriloquism, Jeff Dunham has made it it's a different world for ventriloquists. And you got to give a lot of credit to Jay Johnson and Ron Lucas, who people may not know now, but they kind of kept the lifeblood of ventriloquists pumping when ventriloquism was not pop. You couldn't even book kids shows with ventriloquists. Right. But Johnson and Lucas and another guy named David Strassman, they somehow went out there and did shows and kept it going. And good for them. And of course, the Bob Rumbas, Lillian Tresker that you mentioned. And there are a lot of people that worked for a long time. Pete Michaels is a great ventriloquist who recently passed away, but it was a great ventriloquist. And a lot of these ventriloquists are not just performers. They really have a great love for the art, for the writing, for the figure makers, for the whole thing.
The whole process,
so, sure. It is a process. And I think that today it has a little more respect because of America's Got Talent. And then because you've got so many people like yourself, like Terry Fader, like Lynn Tresker, Dan Horn. I mean, I could name a whole bunch. Nina Conti from England, from London, incredible ventriloquist. And so that you see more ventriloquists online. And I think that's been another real boon for us, is that there's lots of great ventriloquists who can do their shows online and you can watch what they do. David Pendleton is an amazing act. There's Ken Groves. There's just so many really great men and women, all races, all backgrounds. So it's a really interesting art. I don't see it, I don't see it fading away the way it did for a little while. Here's another interesting point, Landon. And this is really wild, but think about this. Okay. The ventriloquism heyday until now, and I consider this right now the golden age of ventriloquism, whether anybody wants to admit that or not. But ventriloquism was incredibly big in the the teens, from 1912, 13, 14, 15, and through the 20s during vaudeville, ventriloquists were huge. They hit an apex during the Great Depression when, as we talked about in the very beginning, just to bring everything full circle here, where you're talking about Edgar Bergen and Charlie McCarthy, during the Great Depression, one of the worst things that ever happened in America during the 30s, a ventriloquist was one of the most popular acts in the world, if not just the United States. Vaudeville happened during the Spanish flu, which was a pandemic that wiped out millions of people. It was worse than what we're going through right now during vaudeville. So you got the Spanish flu and vaudeville. That happened with ventriloquism. The Great Depression and ventriloquism, that happened at the same time. Jeff Dunham became a superstar, the biggest comedy act in the world, while there was a Great Recession going on. And now there's a huge pandemic, and there's Taylor Mason on the Landon Harvey show. So see what I'm saying? That
it's all connected.
It is all connected.
Yeah, history's bound to repeat itself.
Ventriloquism, when people are looking for an escape, when people are looking for something really different, funky, funny, and maybe surrealistic, but also fantastical and magical, magic and ventriloquism often seem to flourish when there are really bad times. So to answer your question, what do I see for ventriloquism? I would say based on past experience of our country and our history, ventriloquism is probably going to do pretty well.
Wow. That's a truly neat notion that you presented.
I don't know, I'm taking really divergent points and bringing them together.
Yeah.
But again, I've got this education that I should be able to do that. So I did.
And another thing I love about this time is that it's kind of giving everyone a break to go back to their routines and look over them and gloss over them and see what they need to work on or add or what new projects they can start while they have this time. So it's a neat time for experimentation and creation.
Yeah, you know, I've learned more about magic in the last 3 months. It's so great, and there's so many correlations between comedy, ventriloquism, magic, and music. They're very, that's another show. I mean, we could just talk about how those things sync, but
you're gonna be a musician, magician.
yeah, that's got to be a word there somewhere, right?
Yeah,
a musician, something word.
Wow, you'll have your own term with ventriloquism, and you'll be an amalgamation of a performer.
That's my dream. I want to be known for a Masonism. Right?
A Masonism.
Yeah, I need an ism name for me.
Yeah, you're a Mason of all trades. Yeah, you're like a Mason of all entertaining entertaining aspects. Wow, that's truly neat. Well, Taylor Mason, thank you so much for being part of Landon Live and for sharing your story.
Oh man, this was so great. You are so smooth. I can't believe, how old are you? About you 12, 13? How old are you?
I'm 19. I'll be 20 in November.
My gosh, you're great. You are just really great. Thank you very much for having me on. Your questions were incredible, and I'm not an easy interview because I just go off. Please shut up now and let me ask you questions. You're very smooth.
Well, that's what makes it fun. And thank you guys for tuning in, and make sure to tune in next time for Landon Live. Bye, guys.